Welcome to Expats Listen with Ryan and Liz. This is the podcast where we share the ups and downs, the struggles, and the celebrations of living abroad.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Liz. Ryan, how was your week?
Oh, this was a really busy and awesome week. We did a road trip and we find ourselves in Bordeaux, France. And it's our first time here. And I am absolutely loving the city. It's gorgeous. And obviously the food is the highlight, and I have eaten way too much duck this week. And how are things with you, Liz?
Yeah, I mean the same. I'm very, very full of duck, and it's amazing and also a bit difficult at times because I can't say no. I don't know about other people and self-control, but I really don't think I have any. When something is truly delicious, like every bite is incredible, I don't know how people stop eating. I really don't understand it. So I just keep eating it. I keep eating it. I keep eating. And then I feel a bit sick afterward. But it was amazing in every bite that I experienced.
I have zero regrets.
Me neither. Okay, well, we're not talking about food this week. But what are we talking about, Ryan?
We're talking about whether or not moving to Portugal might be for you. So you think you want to move to Portugal?
Yeah, I think this is quite a big one because there are so many people thinking about moving to Portugal right now, so many people coming to Portugal right now, and it's such a popular destination. I feel like it's on every list. My dad's retirement community has everyone talking about it. It's mentioned constantly. It's in so many conversations, and I really think this is one of those times where the sugar-coated version of things is what everyone gets told, and we're here to tell you the reality.
Yeah, it's been such a hot topic for a good few years now, and I think so many people are considering it more and more. And while they're doing the consideration, so many things are changing. So I think it's a really good idea to cover what the reality is of the situation before you jump on an airplane and arrive. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, so I guess let's start with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good. We've got weather. Obviously, a lot of people are coming here for sunny weather, nice weather, warm weather, no snow, all of this. We've got healthcare. We'll get into it in other topics, but Ryan and I have both used the healthcare system and have been so impressed. We know that there are issues with not having enough doctors and doctors having to work too much overtime, but in general, I have been nothing but impressed with the Portuguese healthcare system. Fish, I have to say, like fresh fish in Portugal is unbelievable. We eat so much of it. Ryan, I think you've eaten more fish since moving to Portugal than in every year of your life before that combined.
What a new and amazing addition to my life. Really so good. And to be able to have fish of this quality, I'm a lucky, lucky boy.
Wine. We are talking to you from France right now, and I'm still telling you that Portuguese wine is phenomenal. It's well priced. It's really good quality. It's hard to find a bad bottle of wine. There are gorgeous beaches. The beaches are truly stunning from the north to where we live in the middle of the country, all the way down south. There are cliffs. There are these beautiful little beaches. There are long beaches. The beach near our house is over 20 kilometers long. There is diversity in this coastline that is going to be beautiful all the time, wherever you go.
Yeah, and there's also a slower pace of life with people moving at their own speed, which is really a big deal with regards to your experience of day-to-day life and what it is that you're taking out of the joys of living. And the people are some of the nicest, the most incredible people you'll ever meet around the whole world. That's not to say there aren't amazing people in other places, but the concentration of high quality, humble, kind, honest people in Portugal is phenomenal. And I think the other thing that really puts us in play is the growing expat community. The number of new people arriving on a daily basis is really a huge thing that's changing the landscape of the country. And it's a place where you can find a lot of support because it's people who might be exactly like you.
So now we'll move on to what we put in the category of the bad. So the first is that you need to learn the language and it's going to be harder than you think it is. I think for people like me who spoke Spanish before or have some kind of a background in another language, you assume that you're going to be having a much easier time learning a language that's so similar, right? And I think Spanish and Portuguese written are very similar. Spoken are very different. And I have this problem all the time where it's really easy for me to read things in Portuguese. And then I hear someone say something and I'm like, whoa, I am lost. And you really have to put the work in.
No, it's not an easy language. You can actually learn it, and it's an important thing to learn so that you can function fully in society. But it's not an easy language to learn, and be prepared to learn regardless of whatever romance background you might have in terms of language. You're going to need to come here and adapt and adjust, especially to maybe more local Portuguese people who speak really fast, and understand that whenever you interact with the Portuguese bureaucratic system or any kind of organization, you're probably going to need to have some level of Portuguese to make it work. Just something important to remember for learning Portuguese.
Then our next under the bad, we have that prices have gone up a lot. And what might be getting sold to you as so cheap, and you read these articles of like, you can retire in Portugal for $1,000 a month. It's just not true anymore. And the prices have gone up and it's not so cheap. So you really need to be sure that you know how much money things are going to cost before you arrive. And then we move to the ugly. And the ugly is going to be bureaucracy. And waiting longer than you could ever imagine for every single thing that you need to do in your life.
It's just part of the experience here. There is no way of you living a normal life without accepting the fact that things are going to take longer for you to get anything done. And until you accept that fact, you are constantly going to be on the edge. So please prepare yourself for that. Ask yourself the question, am I capable of living in a country where things take longer than they should? As a rule, the exception does happen where something accidentally might happen quickly, but don't come here expecting things to move quickly.
Yeah, and whatever timeline that you might have, Portugal will laugh in the face of your timeline. If you think that you're going to be at this place within a year, you're not. You're just not. Like, things are going to take longer than you think that they're going to take. So now we've got a little bit of a list of things for you. Don't come to Portugal unless. And this was kind of fun to come up with this list. And also, I hope that it comes across from a place of love, because that's really where it started from. We love Portugal. We love living in Portugal. We love Portuguese people and Portuguese culture. And we want to make sure that the people who are coming in can share in that love, to not change the place into what they want it to be, but to make the place better by adding themselves to what already is.
It's true. You know, this is a beautiful, beautiful place with amazing people, incredible opportunities for people, safety, so many amazing things about Portugal. And it's important, though, to ask these questions before you commit yourself to a new life. And that's really where we're at. So in terms of not coming to Portugal unless, what are we going to start off with, Liz?
So what are the things don't come to Portugal unless? The first is don't come to Portugal unless you're willing to learn the language. We talked about this a bit before. You don't have to speak Portuguese to survive. But should you speak Portuguese if you plan to live in Portugal? Yes.
Yeah, you really have to. I know a lot of people in Lisbon especially are able to navigate quite normal lives without speaking the language, but you're not actually able to integrate into society. You're not really able to experience what this country is truly about or make any real connections without the language. And I think a lot of people find themselves in a situation where they've spent considerable time here and they're living day-to-day lives, but they feel very distant from their neighbors and from their community, and not being able to connect to people who are off this place. And that's because they're not able to speak the language. And I would say it goes such a long way, even just making the effort, because I don't think anyone's got the expectation that you're going to start belting out perfect Portuguese. I think being able to start small and basic conversations with people really opens up so many doors to relationships and friendships. And having just those few words, which will eventually turn into more words, is such a big deal to people who are here sharing the same space as you.
Yeah, I don't think it's about being fluent in any way. I think it's about putting effort in and showing that you actually are willing to try a little bit.
I think so many people from Portugal have such a big turnaround with regards to how they view you once they see you try to speak Portuguese. And I think that's such a nice way of starting a relationship with someone where they respect you for trying to put yourself in their shoes and trying to meet them in their place. So the next thing, don't come to Portugal unless you're okay with waiting.
Yeah. So waiting at the post office for 2 hours, waiting at a restaurant for 45 minutes after you asked for the bill and you just want to pay, waiting for 3 years to renew a visa. This is the land of multi-hour waits. These are lovers of take a number. And generally, we said people are not in a rush, which is kind of nice sometimes. And people are not in a rush, which means if you are in a rush, you are going to hate your life here so much.
Yeah, I think it's also more than that, though, Liz. It's not just a case of saying, I'm able to wait or I have that level of patience. It's accepting the fact that you're going to need to wait even when you don't want to.
Exactly.
So you can come here being an absolutely awesome person with regards to being patient and calm, but you'll go very far with that attitude because that's how society is here. But one day you're going to need to get to the train station in 10 minutes and you'll be standing at the supermarket waiting to check out. And there is going to be an old lady who's going to start a very long conversation with the checkout worker. And that's what's going to stop you from getting onto that train. And at that moment is where you realize that how you feel about patience and how you feel about calmness is going to be tested to the extreme. So it's just something for you to know about.
And I think exactly what Ryan said, like, it's the things that you don't expect. It's the waiting that you didn't think you would have to wait for. And I think this comes up so often. It's one of the most difficult parts for me about Portuguese life because I expect the supermarket to have a conversation. And I don't mind if the person in front of me is having a long conversation at checkout. And I honestly think it's kind of sweet that they're friends and that's cool. When I'm picking up a package at the post office and I'm there for 3 hours, I am like melting and filling with fury. And like, I really struggle. And I think you just don't expect picking up a package to take 3 hours. It just wasn't ever in what I thought was possible. So it's these moments that I think really test you, where you're going to do something that you think should be really simple, and it's not.
And I think it's an important thing for people to ask themselves before they arrive, because there's a lot that needs to get done before you get cracking with your Portuguese life, especially on the bureaucratic front.
So next up, don't come to Portugal unless you have realistic expectations on the cost of living. Have you found an article from 2019 talking about $3 lunch specials and rent under $500 a month? That is not true today. Rent in Lisbon is averaging around $1,500 a month. That is a massive difference from what you might have read, from what you might have seen, from what you might have been told. And if you come in thinking, I'm just going to find this gorgeous apartment with sea views, $500 a month, you're not going to find it. And you're going to be really upset when you can't find it. And you're going to burn through money on places that you're spending for a night at a time or a week at a time. You're going to be spending $2,000 to rent something for a month while you're trying to find this perfect place that no one can find anymore because it just doesn't exist. And I think we see so many, especially retired Americans, coming here with this list of prices that they got from someone pre-COVID, and it's just not true.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I need to throw in there is maybe a different perspective on it, Liz. And that is to say that there are cheaper places in Portugal that you can go and stay where rent is cheaper, food is cheaper, but it's nowhere near related to the social media and news material that you have read.
That's true.
Coming up into this place. So if you want a place where you're going to spend $500 a month on rent, you're going to be staying very far away from the major cities and you're going to be living a very different life. And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. But then again, we also come back to the idea of saying, how good is your Portuguese? Because you're going to need to have really good Portuguese because you'll be living in a place where fewer people speak English so that you can have that cheaper lifestyle.
And you're going to be sacrificing lots of other things as well, right? You're going to be living in a really rural environment. You're going to be quite far from the beaches. You're going to be quite isolated in terms of just people.
And maybe that's what you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But be prepared for that. Don't come here thinking you're going to stay in the center of Lisbon or Porto, living the high life, getting the very best restaurants, the best tourist attractions, without needing to pay top dollar for it.
And just one more note on cost of living. Please, 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 please do not be that person who goes around loudly shouting about how cheap everything is. Wow, only $5 for a beer? That's nothing. Guys, read the room. It's double the price that it was just a few years ago, and local salaries have not changed. So that $5 beer is actually really expensive here now. And talking about how cheap you think everything is truly just rubbing it in that you're rich and you're privileged and you probably think that you're better than all the people who are from here.
Okay. So the next one. Don't come to Portugal unless you actually want to hang out with Portuguese people. Portuguese people are some of the nicest people that you're ever going to meet anywhere in the world. We've talked about it before, saying Portuguese people have this perspective and this approach of, I'm going to do this because I would expect other people to do it for me, or I am going to be kind because I see kindness in others. And it's such a kind and sweet way of looking at the world, and they are willing to share that perspective with you in terms of how they treat you, because that's just who they are. And I think that if you arrive here and you hide yourself from that part of society, you're really doing yourself a major disservice from being able to grow and learn, certainly, but also not being able to be a part of the world that you're living in, because the biggest part of that is comprised of people who are from this country. So take the time to learn about Portuguese culture and why Portuguese people do things the way that they do them, and who they really are and how they really feel about things, because it's something that will really change the way that you understand this society. And I think that being able to accept this country for being what it is, rather than it not being what you're about, is a very dangerous game to play, because what it does is it starts pushing you towards having only expat friends, which is such a limited way of living, because everyone that is surrounding you is basically an echo chamber of how you feel and what you think. And I've seen so many people disappear into the woodwork because they're not a part of what's going on in town. They're not able to go to community events. They're not able to go into Portuguese people's special celebrations and events because they don't have any Portuguese friends. So make the effort to get to know Portuguese people. They're incredible human beings, and I think that being open to that is going to take you a very long way.
All right, next up, it's kind of on the same tone, but don't come to Portugal unless you are willing to be quiet most of the time to show respect. Portuguese people are not loud. They're not getting together and shouting and laughing and carrying on in public. When you do that, everyone hates you. And I've seen so many Americans coming here, and as soon as you enter a restaurant, you're like, oh, that table's American, because they are being so loud. They're not looking around them at all. Everyone is staring at them. Everyone is upset that they're there. They're making the experience worse for everyone around them. I think another great example is tantrums for children. We have lived in Portugal for almost 7 years. And I have seen 2 tantrums held by children in public in those 7 years. Both of them were British children with British parents. I've never once seen a Portuguese child shouting and screaming and kicking their feet and crying loudly and just going on in public. That just doesn't happen. As soon as it starts, they're just whisked away and taken out of public because everyone knows that public space is for peace. Public space is for quiet. Public space is to be enjoyed by everyone. And whatever I'm doing can't take precedence over whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I think even on a practical basis, so many times you go to a restaurant and you're sitting at the restaurant and there's this low rumble of people who are there, even if it's a full restaurant. And it's pretty incredible because everyone's able to talk to each other and hear each other. And then the second you realize that there's a foreigner in the crowd, it's because you can actually hear their conversation. You can hear people gasping and shouting and talking about their day. And invariably, it's not a Portuguese person. Please observe and enjoy the silence. It's good for you. It means that everyone is enjoying themselves.
And as soon as you're in a private space, be as loud as you want to be, right? Like there's nothing stopping you from being loud at a party, in your house or a friend's house, in different spaces that are yours. Go wild. But when you're in public, I think it's really such an important part of Portuguese culture to be respectful and to show that respect. And if you're not willing to do that and you think that you can be as loud as you want to be wherever you want to be, honestly, just don't come to Portugal.
But sometimes even when we're out, we have to be very careful because sometimes as a South African, we are loud people and I do get carried away sometimes and I need to think, let me calm down a little bit. And even with Liz, sometimes I remind her, please use the inside voice.
It's true. Like, honestly, Ryan has to remind me of that pretty regularly still. Not all the time, but at least like once a month, I would say. He'll remind me to use my inside voice. And this is the thing, you're never going to be perfect, but putting that effort in and making sure that when someone does say like, oh, you're getting a bit loud there, it's like, oh, okay, let me course correct.
Yes, because we're not from this culture. We're not from this society. So we aren't naturally attuned to this. So we need to adapt and we need to learn so that we can be part of this group. Otherwise, we're going to be at restaurants making a loud noise and be hated by our neighbors. I don't want that,
Yeah.
And I don't want that for anyone who's wanting to come here either.
All right, next up. Don't come to Portugal unless your salary expectations are low. If you have a remote job or another source of income, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're looking to start a business or get a job here, you need to seriously lower your salary expectations. The average salary is only about €1,000 a month. And anyone who thinks, oh, I'm going to come, I'm going to start a restaurant, I'm going to start a cafe, I'm going to start a whatever, and I'm going to be making 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, you're probably just not. And I think knowing that the salaries are going to be lower really helps you with your budget expectations as well. And if you do make more money, great. And if you're able to get a job that has a higher salary, amazing. But if your expectation is high and you can't meet that expectation, you are in real financial trouble. If your expectation is low and you go higher than that, it's great.
You're going to need to work really hard to make a very fair salary here, which doesn't really compare very well to other European countries. It's something to know. This is not the place to come if you're expecting extremely high salaries. It's just a different society, a different group of people. So don't put yourself in a situation where you're overcommitting on a month-to-month basis to bills that you might not be able to pay because the salary is naturally low.
Okay, next up, this is a bit of a controversial one, but don't come to Portugal unless you have a financial pathway to go back to your country if it doesn't work out.
Ooh, this is a tricky one because Liz and I have a little bit of a differing view on this because of who we are as people.
Yeah, it's true. And I think this is one that I've just seen so many times, that so many people come here, They sell everything that they had in their home country. They get rid of everything. They've got exactly what they've budgeted as enough money to live in Portugal for X amount of years until they think that they're going to die. And they hate it. And now they are stuck, or some other financial burden comes up, an emergency or something like that, and they just don't have the budget for it. And now they're here, or there's a family emergency. They need to go back. They can't afford the flights back and forth. And there's so many reasons for someone who moves to Portugal to not live in Portugal forever. We talked about expats versus immigrants and this word of forever and how do you decide last week. And most people don't know what they're going to be doing forever. Even if you think it and plan it and want it and dream it and everything, life happens. And I think that anyone who's coming here of, I have exactly this much money and I'm going to make it work with exactly this much money, and all of my bridges are burned, my financial bridges, other bridges, and everything is gone, and I've got nothing anywhere else anymore, and I have to make this work. I think those people are going to really, really struggle in Portugal.
And I do have so much sympathy for those people because I don't think anyone does it on purpose, but it is something to remember because you don't know what the future is. Like Liz is saying, it might not even necessarily be a case of something external changing up how you feel about the country or what your commitment might be. It really might be something as simple as realizing that you feel lonely and you miss your old life.
Yeah.
Because you might need to make some very drastic decisions to go back to something similar to your old life, bearing in mind that it won't be anything similar to your old life because you have got no more money because you spent it all coming here.
And you've got no stuff because your house that you had, your car that you had, your belongings that you had, like everything is gone. And replacing all of that stuff, you're not going to be able to do that at the price that you sold it for.
Because you can end up being stuck in between, regardless of whether or not you stay in Portugal or whether or not you go back to your home country. You're just not going to have either or. And think about that carefully because we've actually seen that play out with a lot of people who have come. And remember, that group of people are probably going to be the lowest number of people who are going to share this experience with anyone. Because if you struggle and aren't able to integrate and start this new life, I wouldn't blame you for not sharing that situation with other people. It might be kind of overwhelming and make you feel embarrassed or shy or whatever it might be. And they are not going to tell you about needing to consider the idea of what might happen if this doesn't work out and you've spent all of your money making this happen. But like I said, when we started this particular point, Liz and I have a different perspective. If you're coming from a country where you're struggling to make ends meet, where you might be facing homelessness, you might be facing complete joblessness and financial disaster, and you feel like you need to roll the dice by coming to Portugal to try and make something happen and make something work, do it.
It's a different set of dice, right? Like it's a different role that you're having, because I think that the people who are coming from America and the UK and Australia who are selling everything and gambling and rolling these dice on Portugal, it's a different set of dice.
Because the people who I'm talking about are coming here and are going to be happy with the €1,000 a month average salary.
Yeah.
It's going to be enough to make sure that there's food on the table, that there's a roof over their head, and they've got clothes to wear. There's access to adequate healthcare. Their children can go to school. If that's what it is that you need, Portugal can offer that to you if it does work out in many different areas that you need it to work out in. But I would say that for those people rolling the dice and paying your last penny to get here, it might be worth it because you're in a different boat to the people who are here looking for prosperity.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think I agree with Ryan on this, right? I think that it's not possible for everyone to be able to have financial security, to have this pathway back if it doesn't work out. But if it is possible for you, do your best to have one. All right, next up. Don't come to Portugal unless you are ready to live without heat or air conditioning. This is one that I feel like people don't think about and don't talk about. Can you find these amenities? Yes. Are they common? No. Do we have friends who have paid a lot of money to get heat and air conditioning in their homes? We do, but we don't have either one. So in the summer, we take a lot of cold showers. In the winter, we wear a lot of layers indoors. I'm always in a beanie. In the winter, I'm often wearing gloves in the winter inside of our house. It's actually colder in your house in the winter than it is outside because the sun will be shining and it'll be quite nice. But then you go in your house and you're just going to be very, very cold. And I think that this really shocks a lot of foreigners who come.
It's kind of sort of regressive for a lot of people after having moved to a place that they hoped would be better than where they were from. I think I really struggle more with the heat because I think it's harder to cool yourself down than it is to warm yourself up. So like during winter, I think we can throw on a bunch of hoodies and coats and beanies and be generally fine. Whereas during the summer, when we have these terrible heat waves, which are 40 degrees plus, it's a different game because you are just going to lie there on the ground feeling hot. So we have a portable air conditioner, which we never use because the price of electricity is very high.
So expensive.
So if you do want an air conditioner or a heater, you can have it. There are many companies who do the installations and it is becoming more common, but you are going to pay a pretty penny for it. So
like hundreds per month.
Hundreds per month. And it might be worth it for you. I don't want to discourage anyone from that, but bear in mind that you're going to be paying serious money for that. And most people who live in Portugal aren't willing or able to pay for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not willing or able to pay for it. I think I'm fine in the summer to take cold showers. I go to the gym. I swim in the pool. I swim in the ocean sometimes. I am willing to moderate my heat like that. And in the winter, that's the harder one for me, but I still think that we huddle together in the second bedroom, which is the smallest room in the house, and we do have like a tiny little electric heater that doesn't use too much electricity, and I think for me that's the harder one.
No, that's the only way to survive. I don't think that you can get through some of these winters and summers without some help, but you are paying for it, so learn how to swim very well or buy yourself some blankets. That's the best way to deal with it.
Okay, next up, Ryan. Don't come to Portugal unless you are confident in driving in dangerous conditions. This one is a Ryan rant.
I think this might be one of the reasons why I was so excited to start this podcast, just so that I could have a platform to share how I feel about this particular topic. I love Portugal with all of my heart. I think it's one of the most incredible places that I've ever had the opportunity to visit, let alone have the fortune to live here. But as beautiful and as wonderful as all the people of Portugal are, and they are, the second you put them behind the wheel of a car, they become exactly the opposite. They are the craziest, most aggressive, inconsiderate, and unkind drivers, I would say at the very least in mainland Europe. I don't want to extend it to central parts of Africa and certain parts of South Asia because it's pretty wild there too. But putting a Portuguese person behind the wheel of a car is an exercise in understanding the two extremes of humanity. They drive like they discovered cars for the first time yesterday, and they are going to use them as hard as they possibly can. They are weapons. They are rocket ships to go to the moon at the fastest speed that they can go. The road signs are not even guides. They're an inconvenience.
They're not even suggestions.
It's not something that anyone is interested in. They are focused on getting to where they want to get to as quickly as they possibly can, regardless of anyone else. And when they arrive, they are going to move slowly in whatever it is that they're doing. But they are going to get there as quickly as they possibly can.
And where are they going to park, Ryan?
And they will park anywhere at any point in time. They will stop on a highway and reverse to look at what they might have missed. They will stop in the middle of a residential road to speak to their uncle's sister's father's brother and have a 5-minute conversation while 40 cars pile up behind them waiting for the conversation to end. God knows what happens at traffic circles, at roundabouts. Only God knows, because certainly no one in Portugal does. It is just carnage going around a traffic circle because no one knows the rule, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter. It goes further because the police aren't really interested in understanding what it is that's going on. So when a car cruises past you at 170 kilometers an hour in a 100 kilometer an hour zone, the police won't care because they're not even there. We have lived here for 7 years. Over 7 years, I've come to learn that Portugal has the highest per person wine consumption in the world.
And also the highest per capita road deaths in Europe.
In Europe and in the world. These are big numbers, right? And in all of that time, I have never had a breathalyzer. Other than the one time where a Portuguese lady T-boned me at an intersection because she didn't stop at a stop sign. So there is absolutely shocking behavior on the roads here. You will be fine, you will drive, but you will be shown the full shining face of that risk every time you jump into your car. And you need to know about this because as someone who suffers from anxiety, it's a hell of a way to live. And when you're on the road and you're driving and you need to deal with these kinds of issues, you really need to be able to rely on some type of internal resilience and coping mechanism to be able to survive with it. Otherwise, it becomes a huge issue. We have a number of friends who no longer drive or who work really hard to not drive because of the conditions here. And it's not going to change anytime soon. More and more people, in fact, are being given greater access to incredibly powerful and fast cars, and they're using them. And if you come here, please know that this is something you need to be aware of. People don't talk about it, but it's there. Rant over.
All right. Well, on that note, next up is don't come to Portugal unless you know that you're not better than anyone else or deserving of special treatment because of where you're from or how much money you have. We have met so many people like this. They come here, they're on their high horse, they talk about how great they are, how much better they are, how amazing everything is for them, and then they hate it here because no one is going to be rolling out a red carpet for you. No one is going to be treating you different at the restaurant because you're American or because you tipped well last time. It's not what's ever going to happen for you. And if you think that you just being here deserves people to bow down to you and think thank you for coming and for investing in this country. And wow, you're so amazing because you have blessed us with your presence. Really don't come.
Yeah, this is a place that humbles people quite quickly because the place isn't that adaptive to foreign influence. So one of the stories that a good Portuguese friend of ours told us is that Portuguese people won't be told what to do, but they also won't tell themselves what to do. So they're not interested in being influenced by anything other than what it is that they want to do. It's like a very deep Portuguese core belief. And that becomes so much more apparent in the way that people do things here by not listening to how things are supposed to be based on what your expectations are. And so a lot of people find themselves in situations where they expect to be treated like a special boy or girl, but they're not because they aren't special. And I'm a big fan of that because I think it draws people together and it avoids, to at least a certain extent, major unequal treatment and belief in people being better than others. So big fan of that. Just be aware.
Me too. I think I'm a big fan of it. And you really see it in places like the service industry, where you go to a place like America and you see how patrons treat wait staff a lot of the time is quite negative. How someone is treating the cleaner, how someone is treating people that they believe have jobs that are, quote, below them. And in Portugal, I really don't see that, which I'm so grateful for. It means that your waitress is just as valid and valuable as you are. The person who's cleaning the gym gets a good morning and a good afternoon and is treated fully equally to everyone who's spending money to be at the gym. And I think that this is so wonderful that we don't have these striations in class, but it also means that you're not going to benefit from being treated better than anyone else. And in order to achieve that equality, it means that you're not going to get your special treatment. All right, last on our list. Don't come to Portugal unless you embrace change. And look, I think this is for almost anywhere. If you're going to be moving to a different country, if you're going to be moving even to a different state or province or city within your own country, you need to expect change. But in Portugal, we've seen so much change just in the few years that we've been here that I feel like we're giving this list now and half of it might change next year. Expect the visa rules to change. Expect the prices to change. Expect your personal struggles to change. I think that if you go there with this very defined set of expectations of what life is going to be like, you are never going to have any peace.
Yeah, this is a very fast changing environment for lots of different reasons, because the number of people who are coming here and the external factors of economics and politics and just general life is making sure that this place is not what it used to be. On a day-to-day basis, you can see it. And Liz is 100% right in saying that you need to be able to deal with change here, because it's not necessarily small change that's going to affect you. The price of housing doubled in a very short period of time while we've been here. And that's a big deal, because that means you can live somewhere or you can't live somewhere. We've seen so many people who have had notice put in from their landlords saying that rent has increased by 30%, 40%, 50%. Just on one particular day, and they need to then figure out some way of finding a place to live or negotiating or deciding what their future holds. So when you come here, don't expect it to be as sure as it's sometimes being sold to a lot of people, because I think I've got a lot of criticism, honestly, and maybe it's a good time for me to bring this up. I have a lot of criticism to a lot of online creators about what Portugal is about, because the picture that's painted is very one-sided. It's very much geared towards getting views, getting clicks, getting likes, and describing this place as being something that it is, but not hearing the full picture of what it really is. And I think that a lot of people sign up for what it is they've been told this place is like, rather than what it actually is like. And then when they arrive and they haven't listened to an amazing list like this, they're shocked and surprised at what it actually is, and they find themselves caught off guard in terms of making a life here, in terms of accepting what this place is really like, adapting themselves, changing who they are so that they can fit in, and then struggle. There's so many people who are here who have signed up for something that they didn't know they were signing up for and are floundering a little bit. And I have all the empathy and sympathy for them in the world, because it's not easy, but there is that opportunity for you to do the research before you arrive to at least minimize the possibility of finding yourself in the situation. And please don't take any kind of real advice from someone who's selling you some kind of dream about Portugal. It's a beautiful place. It's a wonderful place. You can totally make it your home, but it's not perfect and it's not easy.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And kind of going back to this embracing of change, our list is ours. It's personal to us. And you might find completely different things. You might disagree on half of these points, and they just might not apply to you. But knowing that you're going to come to a place and be ready to embrace that change is so important to your ability to enjoy living there.
Yeah, and share with us what it is that you've gone through that's been unexpected. Tell us what you think is something people need to know before they move here, because it's something that can help someone's life massively in what it is that they're going through and what it is that they should be expecting for themselves and their families going forward. And we'd love to hear that.
All right, so that's our wrap up on Don't Come to Portugal Unless. And now we are ready for our Would You Rather. So in this segment, we choose 2 countries that one or both of us have been to, and we go through a series of questions of would you rather do this in country A or in country B? So this week, we are talking about 2 countries that Ryan and I have discussed potentially living in because we currently live in Portugal. We obviously don't live in either of these, but they were big discussions. So I think it'll be a good would you rather. Slovenia versus Ireland. Are you ready?
I am ready. These are 2 of my favorite places in the world, so I'm psyched for this.
All right. Would you rather eat a pizza in Slovenia or in Ireland?
Slovenia. It's easy. It borders Italy, and there must be 1 or 2 fantastic Italian people who have at least taken a day trip, and I'm going to ask them to make a pizza for me. Where would you choose?
Same. I think that the food in Slovenia is such a draw for Slovenia that you've got Balkan food, you've got Italian food, you've got Austrian food, you've got all kinds of food, and everything is fresh. Everything is local. The first Spar supermarket that we went to in Slovenia, which Spar is like a giant international chain, and it was a big supermarket. I went to buy some eggs and some bread and a couple of small things. The egg section had the names of the chickens that the eggs came from that day.
The freshest eggs we've ever had in Europe.
I have never tasted an egg that was from that day. It was incredible. And it's not just the eggs. I feel like so many things in Slovenia that we ate were just like, this has to be fresh from today. Like, there's no way that this could have been picked yesterday even.
Yeah, Slovenia has really worked out how to identify the most important things in terms of freshness and quality. People there really eat well. Things are really done in a nice way in most cases there. I agree. I think Slovenia is on another level with that.
All right, next up. Would you rather go for a hike in Ireland or in Slovenia?
Oh, it's a hard one. That's a really good question, because Slovenia is one of the most stunning places in the world. Genuinely, no, not any kind of over-exaggeration. I'm not waxing lyrical about it. It's just that gorgeous. The problem is that there's so many hills and mountains, and I hate hills and mountains. So I would probably still do the hike in Slovenia. We did the hike up the mountain next to Lake Bled, and that really pushed me to my limits. But as it is with any really good hike, it really was worth it at the end for that view down into the lake. And with Ireland, I feel like I could probably hike further and longer.
Yeah, it's less hilly.
Because it's flatter. And I think the weather there is also more favorable to long distance walking. So yeah, I would choose Slovenia, but not ignoring the potential for Ireland to have a really good walk. You?
Yeah, I think that Ireland has a ton of potential for amazing long walks. It's a big part of why I think I would enjoy spending a lot of time there, because the walks and the nature are so great. But Ryan is not a fan of hills and mountain hiking. I am a huge fan of hills and mountain hiking, and I love to climb a mountain. I would climb mountains all the time if I could, and I would be absolutely thrilled to hike some mountains in Slovenia.
Very cool.
Okay, next up. Would you rather ask for directions in Ireland or in Slovenia?
Oh, that's actually a really good question, because both sets of people from those countries are both awesome. Such nice people. But I would go towards more Irish, because I think making friends with Irish people is a lot easier. I think Slovenian people are a little bit more guarded when it comes to meeting new people and starting conversations. They're really friendly, they're really nice, but they aren't really sort of open to laughing and joking and becoming besties, as opposed to in Ireland, where I found it really easy to get into a full-on conversation and get to know someone off a very chance encounter. So I'd choose Ireland. What would you choose?
Yeah, I think it would be such a different experience, right? Because I feel like in Slovenia, someone would take your request so seriously and they would make sure that you knew exactly where you had to go. They would be able to speak like 12 languages because it seems like everyone there speaks like 12 languages. So English wouldn't be an issue at all. And they would take it seriously. They would worry about you getting there properly, and they would make sure that you were going to arrive safely in your destination. Versus Ireland, I think you're going to have a laugh. I think you're going to joke around. They might give you the wrong directions at first and then be able to laugh at you a little bit and strike up a conversation that might lead to a friendship. So I'm going to also go with the possibility of friendship and Ireland there, even though I think that Slovenia, you would get phenomenal directions.
For sure.
Next up, would you rather visit for a long weekend in Ireland or in Slovenia?
That's a really good question. I'm actually not too sure. I think I would probably go to Ireland for a long weekend because you can do a lot in Ireland in a long weekend. It's not such a big country. You can drive very far.
Neither Slovenia.
It's true, but I think that if you find something that you really like in Slovenia, it might be a good place to like explore or even do repeated things. So in Bled, that's a tiny little town, and you could go to Bled and you could spend like 4 days there, and you could hike 4 different mountains in 4 days, and that's a tiny little spot. And I think in Ireland you can go to like 7 different little towns over the course of 4 days and see quite a lot. We saw the Blarney Stone, we saw Kilkenny, we saw Cork, we saw so many places in such a short period of time. And I think that's one of the nice things about Ireland, being able to experience so much of the country in a very short period of time. So yeah, I would choose Ireland, not in a very convincing way, but I think regardless of what you choose, I think you're going to come out nicely. What would you choose between the two?
Yeah, so I think I'm actually, because I love both places so much, they are both small and easy to see a lot in a short period of time. I'm going on flights, and it's easier to fly in to Ireland with Ryanair. You've got cheap flights from everywhere around Europe versus Slovenia. It is a smaller airport. It is harder to get to. I feel like a long weekend in Ireland, you can get there so cheaply and then get there back. It'll be a direct flight. It'll be really simple versus I think there needs a little bit more work that goes into getting to Slovenia. So I'm choosing Ireland for
because you get more time in Ireland.
I think so.
Okay.
All right, next up. Would you rather do a road trip in Ireland or in Slovenia?
So I think I would choose Ireland with this because there's so many little towns which are so gorgeous and pretty. And I also really like the in-between stuff, you know, the rural side of things where there's sheep and livestock and just expanses of the ocean and green grass. And I think just spending a lot of time in the car looking at that is a great road trip for me. Whereas I think in Slovenia, you're going to see some incredible mountains and incredible landscape as well, but it's also really small. So I reckon you could get through Slovenia in a day, which isn't really that much of a road trip. So that would really be why I would choose Ireland. It's not a very convincing argument, but it is mine.
But Slovenia is surrounded by everything else that you want a road trip through.
Yeah, but that's not Slovenia. That's the Balkans. That's Italy. That's Austria.
Yeah.
You just have to choose the country, and that's...
So I don't think you could get through Slovenia in a day, for sure. I think we're talking more like a couple of weeks to really see things properly, because I think there's so many small places that we haven't been to. And we only went to Ljubljana and to Bled and to a couple of smaller places in between. But I do think that in a Slovenia road trip, you would be able to see so many of those tiny places. However, I think Ireland was made for the road trip. And I think that the tiny town that has one little pub, and you walk into that one little pub and everyone is super friendly, and Ryan gets to watch his rugby, and we eat our fish and chips, and it's just easy and lovely, and you laugh a lot. And I think it's so nice to be able to explore the smaller places that way. So I do agree. I think I'm going to go Ireland on this one too.
You went through so much to get to the same answer as me.
But it's hard because I really love both countries so much. This is going to be the most difficult one of all. Would you rather buy a house in Ireland or in Slovenia?
I hate the fact that you're asking me this question because it is such a good one. And I don't know if I'm not going to have major regret regardless of which one I choose. I think I'm going to say Ireland, only for the fact that Ireland has a lot of stuff in its culture and its way of life, which is similar in certain ways to how I lived in South Africa. I'm also a big fan of being able to speak English easily with most people in any particular place. It just makes life a lot easier for me. And it might be really a small set of factors that I'm using to make quite a big decision. But I think that those things are important enough to me to inform the decision of wanting to buy a house in Ireland as opposed to Slovenia. Which one would you choose?
You know, it's such a difficult question for me because I really feel like both have so much to offer. I think, like you're saying, the daily life in Ireland would be really wonderful. Like we could get a house in a little small town. We could find a community. We could be regulars at some restaurants and a pub, and we could have our things and our friends and all of this. I think in Slovenia, you are so close to nature. I would go hiking every single day. I would have this amazing food that I could probably grow myself. And you're so close to so many other countries where you're able to spend time in Croatia and Italy and Austria and Serbia and Montenegro. And like all of these places would be so easy to get to. Oh, like really, I think this is like such a big one for me. But I think I'm going to go Slovenia.
That's not a bad call. I don't think that Ireland is that far removed from Slovenia. So Slovenia is a really beautiful and stunning place. And living there in your own little house is not a bad call.
But then I think about friends, and I know I would like make more friends in Ireland than I probably would make in Slovenia. And how important is that? And community. And yes, they all speak many languages and I'd be able to get by in English, but it's a tough one. We would like to know what you guys think too. Like, have you been to Slovenia? Do you love Slovenia as much as we love Slovenia? What do you think? Where would you want to live?
I'd love to know what other people think because these are such special places and there's so many interesting ways of looking at it. I'd love to know what they think. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing this time with us. It's been really good to talk about what you should know before you move to Portugal this week. And if you have any thoughts or feelings or observations from anything that we've talked about, please let us know. We really are interested to hear what it is that you've experienced and what you think. You can contact us on our Instagram, which is @expatslisten, or on expatslisten@gmail.com for email. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. And until we speak again, have a good week. Goodbye.